will make you ultimately sexy.
Yeah. No, that's great. So I'm really fascinated about how you started with this ethos, and you basically did a social media launch before anything else. What prompted that decision, and how did you identify the people that you knew you wanted to be part of this movement?
Yeah, it started with my vision of I grew up loving fashion because I love the idea of brand, right? And
Mm,
brands, their IP is not, you think about Ralph Lauren, the IP in the polo was not the polo shirt. It was how that horse made people feel when they put it
mm-hmm.
on,
Yep.
right? And I
Mm-hmm.
just love that you could inspire people that way. But over the years, I saw that really starting to wane and get diluted with markdowns and sales and all these different things. So I said, what if we brought the power of brand back, but instead of talking at customers the way brands used to, what if we built this brand with a community? We were an open brand, so it wasn't us deciding, okay, we're going to create Lively and this is what it's going to say and this is the photo shoot and this is the product. What if we said we're going to create Lively and we want you to help us do that, help us choose the imagery, help us create the dialogue and so forth. And that's why we started on social, to be honest. We
Mm.
said, let's actually not decide.
Crowdsource your brand. So people crowdsource
Exactly.
funding. Why wouldn't you harvest ideas from the community before you even get started? That's super interesting.
Exactly, exactly. So why wait to launch your brand and see if people love it?
Yep.
Instead, build it with them and they'll love it.
Yep.
So in the spring of 2016, a couple months before we launched, we started doing just that. We started holding focus groups and sharing with people like, hey, here's our product. What do you think? Like, here's the imagery and some of the words we're using. Like, do you respond to this? What do you love? What don't you? Like, how do you feel about this conversation we're having?
Mm.
And thankfully, it was really well received, but they helped us really focus it and make it more and more authentic as we went through that process. And then we went to Instagram and we started posting images and those taglines that we worked with our focus groups and community on creating. And instantly people started direct messaging us. I remember the first girl was a girl named Taylor Tippett. She was a flight attendant from Chicago, and she saw our first post and she's like, how can I help? Like, this is amazing.
Wow.
And we're like, what do you mean? And she's like, I want to be a part of this brand. I'm like, all right, perfect. And so we started to create rules. We said, we will only share imagery and taglines that represent our ethos. We will not tell anybody the price of our product. We will
Hmm.
not push the features of our product. We will only stand for the movement first and foremost. And we started to build, we had about 100 ambassadors that we built a network of, focusing honestly, purposefully in the middle of the country because we didn't want to just focus on New York and California. We wanted to make sure this brand was accessible
Hmm.
to most geographically. And
That's rare,
and
by the
there,
way. That's very rare. Yeah.
yeah. And so we were looking at women's profiles, not for the number of followers they had, but for what their feed had in terms of content. Were they living a fulfilling life? Did they demonstrate that they were truly passionate about something, whether it was food or art or professionalism, whatever it was? Are they passionate people? And that's how we curated the crew.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people think of Instagram as being a superficial medium. But what I've noticed is that over the past few years in particular, it actually fits in very well to one of Tony's famous quotes, which is meaning equals emotion and emotion equals life. So there are some really fascinating artistic things going on Instagram that does seem to carry more meaning. And then that meaning carries over into an emotion. And when you're talking about building a brand, what is a brand? To your point about Ralph Lauren, it's the emotion that you feel about it, and that's ethereal, and that's something that's long lasting as well.
Mhm.
So I love that you took that approach. Now, is this the kind of approach though that you would recommend to other people?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Because from a business standpoint, and we've held these rules to this day, right? So we still do not acquire customers based on price first, even though our product has an incredible value.
hmm
We still, at the top of our marketing funnel, focus on ethos. And because of that, our customer is just beyond amazing. Her lifetime value, her repeat rate, her word of mouth, all of it is just beautiful, including the diversity of it. So you look at our household income, it's a rainbow. It doesn't matter if you make
Mm.
50,000 or 500,000. It doesn't matter if you live in Minnesota or on the Upper East Side. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old or 55 years old. We market to a mindset, and it gives our business so much strength.
Well, and that gives you scope and scale also, right? I mean, then you're not limiting yourself to certain demographics or geographical profiles.
Exactly. And you're not in a product race either, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's wearables or whatever, you're not trying to beat your last best product per se. You're creating an ethos and a brand that can go in so many different avenues. It doesn't matter if we're selling bras or if we're having concerts. That lively feeling and that inspiration is long lasting.
Yep. Apple does the same thing. I think Apple could pivot into almost any industry and it would still succeed.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that you're talking about how purposely did not limit yourself from the very beginning. One thing that you've done that I think completely sets you apart from the competition is this broad size range. So you've got 50 different styles, 26 sizes. You're also sort of blending the lines between lingerie, active, swimwear. And I mean, I'm a customer and I get your
Thank
emails
you.
and I'm like continuously amazed at how the offerings continue to broaden, but the quality seems to remain the same. Does that have to do with your supply chain, or do you have the ability to broaden your range so quickly because of the way that you've set up your operations?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's one of our clear competitive advantages is our supply chain. Before I started the company, I said the only way that I can do this is if I lock down supply chain. And not only did I lock down an amazing supply chain, they were actually my first investors pre-launch.
Oh,
And
perfect. It's
yeah,
like a
I
dream
mean,
come true.
lottery,
Yeah, they're
hit lotto.
literally invested. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was to the point where when we started developing our product, I purposefully did not bring on anybody that was previously in the lingerie space because I wanted to make sure that we did things differently. Instead, I brought in my creative partner, Sarah, who came from an active and lounge background, and said to her, like, forget everything we know. Let's just buy and curate all the products that we're living in. And so she was obviously wearing a lot of active and sports bras. I
Yoga
was wearing
pants. Yep.
total and swimwear I was wearing as bras because I
Yep.
was so proud for them to show. And we started literally cutting the waistbands off yoga pants and stapling them to like lace bralettes and
That's
just being,
genius.
yeah,
Because it's true. The
weird.
waistbands on yoga pants are just too thick, and the bands on bras are way too thin. So, wow, that's literally solving a problem.
Totally. And we were just being, creative and weird and having
Yeah.
fun. And when we took this to our manufacturers, who again were our investors, were like, interesting, like so different. Are you sure? And we're like, yes, let's just try. And they said, okay, so what we're going to do